blazing so bright, calling the fight from the ancient lands. We stand from dawn to twilight, the empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath, each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine, fear lurks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every war that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos, sharpen your knife, make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine, can both recall a scattered. In the wild sound of war drums, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs, the carriers may bug you down. You set up for the swiftest ride, sneaky Texas work as you pass the light. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every war that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Across the ancient lands, stories will be told. How you struggle, how you try to define the world. With a sacred name, you are the one chosen to start up the storm. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every war that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another week of Ark of Osiris Grand Prix action. I'm your host, Brian Koo, excited to bring you two excellent matches today. My partner Chisgull has a external matter to deal with. Nothing bad at all, but I will let Chisgull talk about that on his own time. Best of luck to Chisgull on this Saturday morning. And I thank you all for joining me for this solo cast, where we have a very good match right off the bat between two strong Chinese teams here in the lower bracket. We are going to be watching 261K against 466W. Now, these two teams, they have actually played before. They played in the first round of the upper bracket tournament, and now they have a rematch in the lower bracket. And one of the things that's gonna be really interesting about this rematch in particular, we're seeing a few rematches this weekend, but in this rematch, 466W is actually the team that lost to 261K in the first matchup, but they are actually the favorite in this round of play. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. For one, 261K, they pulled a very nice arc steal in the first matchup. There was a light escort from 466W. 261K had not even gone to the mid, and then they decided to use a master strategy to the mid, take out the arc carrier, and then return the arc on their side. So 261K used a lot of risky plays that worked in their first matchup, and they won by about 5,000 points. However, 466W in their last match, they looked very strong, beating another Chinese team by, well, they only won by 5,000 points, but that's because the other team also did a very nice arc steal from them. So 466W has shown to be a very strong fighting team. They have won the occupation score in both of their matches. They won their occupation score last week by 10,000 points. And they also are from the same kingdom as one of the top Chinese teams, 466S. And so they are able to practice quite a bit against their older brother. And they have shown that in the field by having very, very good fighting play, very good side play. And I think that's probably why 466W is the slight favorite in this match against 261K, who are the realm of Anubis champions on the Chinese server in the recent Osiris League season. And they won 2 weeks ago against 466W, and then they lost last week to 21YL in the upper bracket. That's what sent them down into this lower bracket, where the situation is very simple. You win and you advance, you lose and you go home. Once teams lose that second match in the lower bracket, they are out of the tournament and are going to have to just watch from the sidelines like the rest of us. So it is going to be a very good match. It's going to be the first match of a double header here on this Grand Prix Saturday. And yeah, you know, hopefully people got their Auric bets in at the last minute. I will say one of the very nice features of this latest Osiris League season is that you can place bets on games right up until the matches start. And so if you realize at the last minute you're going to be around and you want to sweat some of these matches, you can put some of your hard-earned Aurics on it and make the sweat of that match that much better. And, you know, we have seen some very good play from the Chinese teams so far in this Grand Prix. Chinese teams have been dominant overall, and their play has been quite interesting along the way, where they have brought some new changes to the meta. We're going to get to watch some of that in the match today, and let me go ahead and get you into that match. Alrighty, the two teams are just starting to teleport in now. Bit of an order here to the teleports in of 261K. They are looking to repeat what they did 2 weeks ago and get the dub against 466W. The younger brother of 466S, one of the very top teams in this tournament. About 90 seconds to go before this match begins. And it should be a very good one. What we have seen from 466W is very good side play and a moderate amount of gathering. Let me go ahead and look at the provision scores of these two teams. Yeah, 466W has done 3,000 and then 3,700 worth of provision score in their two matches. 261K has done a bit more provisioning, 4,500 and 3,800. You know, neither of these teams are like the defining teams of the Chinese styles. They seem to be more emulating what other teams are doing. 261K is the bigger risk-taking team. They not only go to the mid, but they also try to take buildings very late in that mid-cycle where, you know, a couple of minutes before the arc, they still have players on the sides trying to take buildings. That's the kind of thing that does work when you're the better team. But when you are up against a very strong opponent, they're just going to punish you for that. They are going to punish you for late or non-full mid rotations by just sending everybody mid and winning that mid fight. So we'll see if 261K continues their aggressive style in this match, because the gates are open and we are very much underway for another week of Grand Prix action. How about it? Let's see what the chat thinks of this match. The chat is also saying that this is going to be a very close match. We're actually right now at 50-50, hovering between 50-50 and 49-51 here in the chat. LexiGod saying, let's go 261. AB19, impressed with the organized TPs of these two teams. Teams definitely mean business here in the Grand Prix. The prizes are very, very good. I believe first place in the Grand Prix is going to give $2,000, just under $2,000 worth of flux scripts to every player on the winning team. And all these teams, if they can advance a little bit farther in the tournament, then they will actually earn a few $100s more in flux scripts. You know, if you can get into the top 8, all your players are going to get a nice bit of crystal tech, a nice bit of free crystal tech that players who don't finish in the top 8, players who, or teams that get eliminated earlier, will not get. So, you know, the economy of this game is always a factor, and the economy of this game will be affected by the outcome here in the Grand Prix. Fast capture on this obelisk by 261K. 7 CCC, rocking the CCC early on here, trying to make some things happen early on, at least getting some scouts. The blue team does have a very good sentry here that will track the rotation here of their opponents on the bottom side. The opponents have not reached the sentry yet, and the opponents have not really fanned out yet to reveal how many marches they plan to put in the outside lane and how many marches they plan to put in the inside lane. You can see that on the top side, which is a little bit faster to get out just because of the contours of the map, you can see that there is a very healthy amount of players on the inside lane, but not so many that we would say they're being aggressive. They're actually stopping, it looks like, before they get to the desert altar. Not something you see too often. 461K, usually teams just go right to this desert altar. 261K is balling up far back from the desert altar, while at the same time they are, and look at this, another player, looks like another player is rotating over here. Maybe on the voice chat they were like, hey, you're in the wrong lane, buddy. And now a couple more players rotating over to this inside lane. What do they know that we don't? Well, actually, we know more than them because we can see all the marches. They cannot. But it looks like they are deciding, 261K is deciding, to have a very light presence on the outside lane, to go heavy on the inside lane, but to do it not at the desert altar, but actually quite far back. So an interesting approach here on the bottom side by 261K. Let's see how this engagement plays out. Teams making first contact. They are familiar with each other. They have played before. This rates to be one of the closest matches of the day if the Oryx know what they're talking about. And you know what? I think the Oryx do know what they're talking about. I think we're in for a good one. 466W picking this fight up on the enemy side of the desert altar. Will that make a difference here? If we zoom out a little bit, I think what we see is a nice numbers advantage here by blue sad faces on both sides, but more sad faces on red. So the unorthodox opening here by 261K is paying off. They still have time to get to this desert altar as well. Actually pretty interesting by 261K that they almost baited the enemy to fight them on their side of the building. And now they actually won the fight and have a lot of time to get a clean capture of this desert altar. They will need to hold it for 3 minutes in order to get those sweet, sweet first capture points. But they are well on their way. The first step of that whole process is you have to get a clean win of the first open field battle. Then you have a bunch of marches that can defend. And 261K is they don't look like they're really interested in defending here. We do have the arc in about 7 minutes, so they're just going to aggressively attack into the red team, kill their own marches off, and get ready for the mid. As this is happening, let's look at the rest of the map. And the rest of the map is quite red. The slight betting favorites in this match, 466W, they have taken the enemy's desert altar. And unlike on the bottom side, what 466W is doing here is they are not killing off their marches. They are putting up a ball in front of the building, and they are daring blue team to come and take this structure. The blue team has 2 minutes to take this structure, or else it will be a very significant win early on in this match for the red team to get the first capture score on this desert altar. And they are well on their way. 261K, you see the 261K has the rally here, a full rally, a full Justinian Nevsky rally, possibly a Justinian Bertrand rally. But the thing is, they don't have the open field. They do not have a lot of open field here. And so this rally is likely going to get swarmed down. Let's see where their open field actually is. They didn't... interesting. You would think that they would have more open field here, but it just has not come out quickly. Now there's marches coming out, but look at how somewhat slowly some of these marches have gotten to this fight. You wonder why it took them so long to get to this fight. And still 1 minute left for 466W to hold this desert altar, but they are well on their way to doing it. 261 may have another chance to launch one more rally, but that rally... Well, that rally was not... It says it was not full. It looked to me like it was full, though, actually. Oh, it got swarmed down before it got there. So about 1 million troops left in this desert altar. Another reinforcement coming now. Look at this, a double C reinforcement waiting to get into this desert altar. This is a march that likely will not go to mid. This is a march that is devoted to reinforcing this building. It does get in. Another double C coming to also reinforce. You can see how serious 466W is about getting the first capture on this desert altar. They sent marches to reinforce this building to make sure that they could get it. Doesn't look like another rally is coming in at this point. I mean, they do have a... Nope, that's on the other side. Wait a second. Okay. Yeah, another rally coming in here. I got a little confused because there's a CCCCCCC, and then there's another CCC player with a couple fewer letters in their name. But we got that one sorted. So this desert altar has been full captured. 261K now in good position to take it back. About 3.5 minutes before the first arc, you see that both teams are heavy mobilizing to arc. No attacks from either team at this point. Other than this desert altar, it has been a fairly conventional opening. Neither team going for the late attack before this first arc. 261K will have some marches compromised for this fight. You can see, for example, this Ethelfled. Let's track this Ethelfled and see what it does. Keep it in mind that there are 3 minutes to go before the first arc. You can see that some marches are going home. Obviously, you know, this Joan is at less than half of her health. So the Joan is going to go home. But then the issue for 261K is that this Joan will likely be late to the mid-fight. As we check the temple, we can see that the red team is trying to get a scout on 261K, trying to figure out how big their numbers are. Neither team has a sentry in this mid. Not sure if the sentries were destroyed. You would think not, because if the sentries were destroyed, there would be still one up. So interesting that neither team is using a sentry mid. They've used all their sentries on the sides. They're forced to use marches to scout the enemy to get a sense of how things are. Let's look at what red team's view is here. You can see that they just cannot at all see. Now they can see them. Now they can see the blue team. Yeah, Joan's job is done here. Joan's trying to get away, because blue is heading to the temple. Red is close as well. Red puts the sentry down. Blue staying very aggressive. As I alluded to before the match, blue is a very aggressive team. 261K is a very aggressive team. And it's interesting to me here that they are taking the temple and posturing aggressively when they, up until this moment, didn't really know how many marches the red team has. It does look like the numbers for blue are better. A better mobilization here for blue at this point. You see a smattering of marches to the sides. You see a late rotation here. A late rotation from the top side marches of 466W. Dust up being cast by 261K. They really want to go in now. I mean, honestly, if they knew what I knew, they would go in now, because these marches are getting to mid-late. Pretty strong mobilization for blue. They do have some late marches, but I like their numbers here. And 261K did win some mid-fights in the last matchup between these two teams. This is looking to be a really, really good mid-fight here. Both teams bringing heavy, heavy numbers to this battle. And this is going to be a key moment in this match. Two evenly matched teams fighting mid for the first time. They are both looking to prove a point. Sneaky Tactics cast for 466W. It's going to be a fighting skill. To the death from both teams. Double to the deaths on this first arc. Dust Up and To the Death against Sneaky Tactics and To the Death. 466W does get to use one extra point mid, but these are pretty even skills here. Heavy, heavy action in this mid fight. The arc has been captured by the blue team. Sama from 261K grabbing the arc and getting away with it. Getting away with a clean grab here. Heavy fighting, everyone distracted by the fireworks of the fighting, and Sama got a clean grab of this first arc and is carrying this thing a long, long way. He might get away here. He might get away. There are only 3 escorts. The escorts are getting killed very, very quickly. Let's look at the numbers at the mid. I mean, who won this fight? Well, look at this. This is a very even fight at the mid. If anything, red team is winning the mid fight. But the pull was so big. The pull was so big by 261K that I guess I would rate them as having the advantage in this arc. But boy, 466W is cleaning things up. But look at this. They're cleaning things up, but they are all at the building. And the arc is a half a screen down the field. Who picked it up? A Joan. Boy, they would love to have a double C with this thing. Look at this guy. This guy's like, why didn't you let me pick it up? Why didn't you let me pick it up? Because look at the Joan. The Joan is moving very slowly. Joan is moving very, very slowly here. Holding the arc gives you a massive debuff. You take much more damage when you're holding the arc. You also move 50% slower. And we can see that with this Joan. It is getting walked down here by a very significant red ball. But listen, this position by the blue team, having the arc on their side of the map, by this much is quite significant, and you can see that they are full sending back to mid. 261K is full sending back to mid here. Let's zoom out and look at what the other marches are doing. Even some of the marches from the bottom side are headed to this mid. What is red team doing? Red team is also full sending back to this location of the Ark. The Ark has just been grabbed by Sama, the same player who grabbed it at the temple. It's down again. Looks like only one player is grabbing it. That march has now died. So the issue here is you want to grab the Ark, but as you're grabbing the Ark, you cannot fight the other team, and the other team can just absolutely smash you. Two players grabbing it now. Sama grabs it again. Sama's third pull. This looks like a good one. Looks like a good pull by Sama here with the Joan. Blue team has cleared the marches, and 466W has, well, some of their players still want to ambush, but they have, it looks like they have given up on this Ark. It happens that fast. When you get a good pull and bring that Ark to your side, it can happen that fast that this Ark is over, and 261K has grabbed the early advantage. And when they do return the Ark, that will give them 3,000 points. It will give them about a 1,000 point lead in this match. We have seen 466W be the stronger team on the sides so far. They are putting some pressure on this Desert Altar, but not a ton. Not the kind of pressure that would actually flip this building. You can see that most buildings are owned by the normal team. There's one outpost here that the red team has. Player here, the Huo, is trying to do some outpost captures. They've now captured another outpost. I think this is relevant. I think this is relevant here. You know, you can see that 261K did not have a garrison captain in this outpost. And we have seen 261K be the kind of team that tries to do a lot of things at once. And when you try to do a lot of things at once, what can happen is certain details slip through the cracks. One of those cracks might be that they are not defending their outposts. We will have to see, but, you know, for all the hecticness of that first Ark, 261K has actually managed to hold their buildings pretty well. They are actually on the offense here at the Desert Altar. Doesn't look like they have the numbers to flip this Desert Altar, but once you give them credit for that first Ark, 261K does have the lead in this match. Boy, this looks to be a pretty close match here. The one thing I will say in 466W's favor is that they won that mid fight on the field. On the field, 466W won that mid fight. Now, they did cast Sneaky Tactics instead of Dust Up, which one could argue Sneaky Tactics is better than Dust Up because it costs more points, but I actually would rate those skills as being quite similar in terms of the fighting boost that it gives you. And we will just have to see if 466W can make some progress on the sides, as they have done in past matches. They did win the occupation score in the first game between these two teams, but only by 2,000 points. They only won the occupation score by 2,000 points. And if we look right now, they're actually up 2,500 points in occupation score. So if this match follows the script of the previous match, we're not going to see a huge edge from either team in the side game. And even as we're watching now, I think we're seeing two pretty evenly matched teams in terms of their building game. Neither team really able to muster much offense here. The offensive pushes are being picked up pretty far up in the field. The blue team here has brought their ball in front of their own Desert Altar in order to take the fight before the enemy even reaches the building. If you let the enemy reach the building, then they potentially can swarm this Eleanor garrison down. But if you never even let them get there, then all it is the rally. We can see the rallies hitting here. This full Scipio Aemilianus Pakal rally is hitting the building. The Pakal gives this rally a lot of anti-swarm, a lot of normal attack damage, and a lot of counterattack damage on this march. So you can see that the blue team is not swarming this rally. If they swarm this rally, they would take heavy damage, and their marches would be compromised. So they're letting the rally run. Their marches are focused on the field, and we can see that they are clearing the field here. They are clearing the field. The Eleanor is holding up against this low damage rally, right? This is a very tanky rally. Scipio Aemilianus and Pakal, but it does not do a lot of damage, and it does not do damage quickly. So the Eleanor is just chilling here, just straight chilling, getting a good trade, and allowing all the open field to actually do a full refresh. They're just going to full refresh. They're not going to go forward. They're just going to refresh as quickly as possible, because as we can see, 466W is coming back out. And one of the interesting things to watch here is, are they going to just go in right away, or are they going to wait for all their players to form up, and then they're going to attack together? It looks like they're going to wait. It looks like they're going to wait, and this is why I asked that question. Imagine if they had pushed right in. Imagine if 466W had pushed in right now. They would have the numbers advantage here. They would have the numbers advantage. It's very slight. It's a very slight numbers advantage. But they could potentially get a bit of momentum by clearing the field. Then their second wave would come in. Their second wave could do well against the second wave of 261K. But they are electing to do an organized push. They're going to gather up. And honestly, they're taking quite a bit of time to do this, and they don't really have a lot of numbers. You know, if you really look at it, 466W does not have a lot of numbers here to actually do an attack. And it looks like the Shrine of War was actually stolen here by 261K. Very interesting. A non-full garrison gets beat by an almost full rally. I didn't notice it, and neither did the red team. The red team absolutely 100% did not notice that there was a Scipio rally headed to this building, and it did get flipped by 261K. That could potentially be important, because this rates to be a pretty close match. We can see that 261K is holding the arc. They're actually not even holding it. They dropped it. Sama dropped the arc by jumping into this resource tile. So they're just leaving the arc in the field here, pretty close to their desert altar. Now someone's grabbing it. There's someone on there. I feel like someone on the team didn't really like the position of that arc, and I cannot blame that someone, because that is a very weird place to hold the arc. Zooming out a little bit, we can see that 466W has taken the Sky Altar. They managed to flip the Sky Altar. You can see some pretty good rains, some decent rains from the Eleanor, but it got ripped apart by a Scipio Tariq rally. Full rally versus full garrison. And it was really the swarm here. You can see the swarm here on the Eleanor made the difference. Some of these marches getting some nice value here. But 261K has now flipped the building back, but they won't be generating points for a full 2 minutes on this building. And you can see that reflected in the occupation score. 410 points for 261K, 480 for 466W. What we are seeing here is that 466W is doing a little bit better on the sides. And if they had won that first arc, they would actually have a pretty significant lead in this match. But the reality is that they did not win the first arc. And so we have a very close match as a result. Now a rally coming in on this desert altar. They actually pushed up. This organized group has pushed up after clearing the marches at the Desert Altar. So this is a very effective attack here by 466W. Just not enough field here by 261K to deal with this push. Their marches are coming back out now. A modest number of marches coming back out, but not a ton of marches. They're going to push forward to this Desert Altar, but it is being swarmed, and there is a rally on it. Leo in the chat pointing out that when you do swarm a Pakal rally, it gets stronger. So one additional reason to not swarm this Scipio Pakal rally is that it will make the rally actually trade better against the garrison. We can see people are swarming this thing now. They're trying to get reinforcements into this garrison. This is a key moment here for 261K. They need to get holds on their buildings. They need to reject some of these attacks and keep this score close enough that if they do win the next arc, that they can potentially win the match. Very big moment here for 261K. They need to show that they can actually defend a building in a key moment. So far, they're doing it. Really good reinforcements on this Eleanor. It looked like the Eleanor was going down, but the blue team's marches got here in time. They did manage to reinforce. We can see another double C speeding into this building right now. Look at this. And another Ethelfled with extra troop capacity. Ethelfled also speeding in to this building, filling this Desert Altar back up. Very good defense there by 261K. Let's take a look at that report. You can see the reinforcements. The Eleanor dropped very, very low. Very, very low. Under 500K. But they did get some reinforcements in here. Looks like a couple of players actually, at least one player here, you see this player here with the interesting avatar, they pulled a low march out, they put a full march back in, and that boost kept this Eleanor alive, and they ended up getting not a good trade, but they held the building. So good defense there by 261K. And it looks like they're doing a full hold of this arc. In the next 3 minutes, they will need to return this arc. They're looking to make this a 2-arc game. And I think what 261K's goal here is they want to win both arcs and then lose slowly on the sides to the point where they will still have the lead at the end of the game. And it has been touch and go. It has been touch and go for 261K on the sides. Looks like they're holding here at the Sky Altar this time around. You can see this Scipio, probably Scipio Tariq rally here in this lane. This one's not going to work. The enemy is balling up for their next push. But looks like a good hold here. 261K is giving buildings away here and there, but they have largely been able to hold their buildings. You know, the building flips don't seem significant enough to me that it would give 466W such a big lead that they can win this match without winning the next arc. It feels to me like whichever team wins the next arc is going to be a heavy, heavy favorite to win this match. But that does remain to be seen. We still have 30 minutes to go in a very hotly contested battle. Heavy pressure on the Eleanor once again. Another tough defense here for 261K. 466W proving to be very effective in this Desert Altar lane. Big swarm on this garrison. We've got a Joan here. We've got a Scipio. Other marches pushing forward, trying to keep reinforcements off the building. And they get another flip here. 466W gets another flip. They very quickly put the Gorgo in as captain. A pretty crisp attack here by 466W, having the garrison captain in the rally, immediately flipping to it. And now they're going to posture up. They're going to clear this unorganized pushback, right? This unorganized pushback by 261K. These marches heading in now are very outnumbered, heavily outnumbered marches heading into this ball. All these marches are going to get cleared out. Look, now this player is also thinking about going in, thinking differently of it. They're like, okay, we're like way outnumbered. We need to wait. This player thought about waiting. Now they're going in. 261K, just going in one at a time here. They're going in one at a time on their enemies. And this is just step one of taking this building back, because they are not even at the building. They're just trying to clear out the open field defense before the building. Which this can work. They have a rally forming now. If they can clear out the open field as the rally is launching, that's a pretty good timing. Here comes the rally. Here comes the Justinian rally coming out, moving very fast. They're clearing this ball. As the Justinian comes out, they wish they had this thing cleared already. Look, they're outnumbered, though. They're outnumbered at this ball. They're not going to clear it. And this Justinian is going to get swarmed down. This player here biting their chops, getting ready to swarm down this Justinian rally. It's just not going to be enough. And so this is going to be a very strong attack by 466W, where not only did they flip the building, but they're going to hold the building, and they are going to repel the first wave of this take-back attempt. The first take-back attempt by 261K is not going to work. It is not going to work here. So they're going to have to try, and try again. They did return the arc. We have another arc in 7 minutes. You can see that 466W has the lead, and they have a very significant advantage in points per minute due to the occupation. They've taken the Desert Altar on the top side, and they have somehow taken the Shrine of War on the bottom side, even though the blue team is pushing. Even though the blue team here is pushing in this lane, they actually lost their own Shrine of War to nothing. Look at this. Look at this. Oofa. Look at this. This building was basically empty. There was a close fight here, and then everybody went and refreshed their marches, and 466W actually flipped this building. They flipped the building that only had about 150k troops in there. This Desert Altar is still being held. It looks like it's about to go down. No rally on it, though. Just the marches are swarming. So there's no rally here. These marches are choosing to swarm the building, which they have to do. And what's going to happen now, and look, you can see the rotation. Look at the red team smells blood in the water here. They know that these marches are low because they're actually swarming the building, right? All these marches are less than full health due to swarming. They either have to continue fighting with half health, or they have to refresh. And so 466W is actually rotating over to this lane, thinking that they might be able to get another good attack on it. But both teams also very much starting to think about middle now, because this second arc is going to be incredibly important. It is worth 3,500 points. Whoever wins the next arc will have the lead in the match. If we quickly check the gatherers, we can see that the blue team has about seven or eight gatherers out. The red team, 466W, has roughly 4. It looks like they have about 4 gatherers out. So it does look like 261K is doing more gathering than their opponents. And so if 261K can win this next mid-fight and maintain their gathering pace, then they will be in a very good position to win this match. 4 minutes until arc, and red team is attacking at this sky altar. They have the numbers advantage here, a very significant numbers advantage. Rally is coming. This is pretty well timed by 466W. They need to flip this building and then get to mid. It'll be very interesting to see what this very significant ball from 466W is going to do after they take this building. It is a given that they will take this building. The question is, what will they do afterwards? It looks like a lot of these marches are being very aggressive. What they want to do here is they want to be very aggressive. If their march dies, that's fine. If you're a red player in this ball, if your march dies, that's fine. You can then go to mid. If you have success in this fight, then you will hold this building for quite a long time. Boy, if I'm blue team, I don't know that I'm coming back to this building. If I'm blue team, I think I let them have this building for the next 5 minutes. I mean, that's 1,500 points. You put yourself in a tough position when you're blue team here, but you could potentially let them hold this building for about 5 minutes, let these low health marches stay in the field, and then go heavily to mid. Because you can see, as important as this second arc is, both teams are a little bit slow to get there. We saw both teams get to mid a lot earlier the first time around. Blue team has a lot of marches here that are going to be in trouble for mid. The timing here for red is very, very good. Very, very good. These marches are dead. These marches did a lot of work. They put in a lot of work. Now they are going back to their city. And we are going to see them very quickly pull these marches out and head to the middle. Please make me look right and pull your march out quickly. Guess not. Guess not. And look at this. They're going back to... No, there we go. Redirecting. Some of these marches are going back to the sides. Okay, so very interesting development here. 466W is opting to not do a full send to mid. They're sending a lot of players back to the sides rather than going mid. Very interesting decision here. Very interesting decision. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Looks like a fuller send to mid by blue. We saw blue get the temple before the first arc the last time. We saw them have better numbers the last time. They did lose the fight, but their pull was so good that they got the arc anyway. And a big reason for the quality of their pull is because they held the temple. They are holding the temple. They are posturing on the enemy's side of this building. And they just make it very difficult for red team to get to the temple in time. There's only 1 minute before this arc spawns. And the red team is late. The red team is late to this mid fight. Look at all these marches from the bottom side that are late. And look, we saw these players. Look at this. We saw these players going to the outside lane. And now they are redirecting those marches to go mid. But they're not going to get there in time. They're going to be late. They're going to be late to this mid. This arc is spawning in 30 seconds. This arc is spawning in 30 seconds. And 466W is not going to get there on time. Unbelievable. Wow. They still have good numbers here. This is still going to be a very close fight. But you wish you had everybody for this fight. Boy, good ball here by 466W. Look at this. Much better engaged by 466W. Much better engaged. Arc is spawning, though. Arc has spawned. Heaven's Grace and Dust Up for the blue team. Bog Down. And Sneaky Tactics for the red team. Another pull by Sama. Sama gets another clean pull. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Sama gets another clean pull here. Hard to tell who's winning this fight. Looks like red team is probably winning this fight again, but it's kind of close. But once again, this pull, just a very big pull by the blue team. This will probably be enough for blue to actually win this fight. We can see that the fight is close enough at the main point of contact that they are just going to rip through these marches that are heading towards the arc. Look at how badly these marches are getting ripped apart who are trying to get to this arc. 261K once again getting a really good pull on this arc, and they are really in control. They are in control of the second mid-fight. Looks like they're actually going to clean things up at the temple. And so unless Red goes for a crazy ambush, 261K is probably going to win the second arc as well. We do see a couple of players here. They're going to ambush this arc. And so it doesn't look like there's going to be a really organized ambush of this arc. It looks like what 466W wants to do is they want to take the buildings. They're hoping to get enough from the building score to where they can potentially win this match, even if they lose both mid-fights. If you look at the occupation score right now, it is 970 points a minute for 466W, only 190 points a minute for 261K. So the red team will get a very big boost from the occupation score over the next few minutes. But will it be enough to win this match? They have a 2,000 point lead right now. Once this arc gets returned, they will be down 1,500 points. From a gathering perspective, it looks to me like the blue team. Well, it's hard to say. Right now, the red team is actually doing more gathering. So that has gone back and forth. I think we have to call the gathering equal in this match. And what we have to say is that as of this moment, it's about a 500 point lead for 261K. So very, very close. 261K has a very slight lead. However, that lead is evaporating quickly based on how red this map is. On the top side, 466W still has both buildings. They still have both buildings of their opponents. They're generating way more points. You can see that the points gap is just ballooning up for 466W. Where this now is that they actually have the lead now. Even if you give the blue team credit for 3,500 points with this arc return, 466W actually has the lead in the match based on occupation score. It's close, but having the lead is very significant for 466W at this moment because 261K has not been able to flip buildings at all. They've been playing defense this whole match. So it's just very hard for 261K to close this gap without a third arc. If they don't have a third arc in this match, it's very tough for 261K to win. And so that begs the question, why not return this arc and make it a 3-arc game? Because even now, the occupation score is just heavily, heavily dominated by 466W. I mean, look at this. They are positioned to potentially take the Sky Altar again. They still have the enemy's Shrine of Life. They still have the enemy's Shrine of Life here. You know, I can understand what 261K is thinking. They're like, well, okay, we're gonna get our buildings back soon. Like, we don't have the occupation score lead now, but we're gonna get them back soon, and then we're gonna hold them for the final 15 minutes of the match. But I just don't think that philosophy matches reality, right? Because number one, even if they hold all their buildings, they're still going to be losing. They're still going to be losing by 1,300 points, which they can't make up from gathering. And there's no way they can make it up from occupation score because they quite literally have flipped the red team's buildings maybe once in this entire match. And they have been unable to consistently hold their own buildings. Their own buildings keep getting flipped. So to me, it is actually inexplicable why you would hold this arc. I think you have to return it. I think you have to return it, make this a 3-arc game, and give yourself a chance to win. Because I quite frankly do not see any other way for 261K to win. If we quickly check the gathering scores at this point, you can see that they are dead even. And both teams have a very similar number of gatherers. You can see now that the blue team is going heavy gathering. They're trying to win with gathering. We see what their strategy is now. They're going to go heavy gathering in the final 15 minutes of the match. All these little white dots that we see, these are all gathering marches. Every single one of these is a march that's gathering. The 261K is going to try to hold their buildings and make up this gap by returning the Ark and by returning lots and lots of provisions. I think that is a strategy that might work. But when you have won 2 out of 2 arcs, why not make it a 3 arc game? But we will see. This one is still up in the air. Look at this. The Sky Altar gets flipped again. 261K has simply been unable to hold their altars. Both of their altars have gotten flipped several times. And that point gap, that point differential from these altars getting flipped is just so significant. 300 points per minute. That is just such a big deal. 12 minutes left in this match. And look at this. They have returned the Ark. 261K has returned this Ark. They are going to make this a 3-arc game. They have seen the writing on the wall here and realized that they cannot win this match if they do not return a 3rd Ark. I think this is a good decision by 261K. You wish that they had made it a few minutes earlier, but all in all, it's a pretty good timing for them. They just took back this Sky Altar, so now their marches can go on the attack. These marches can, well, the timing is interesting. The timing is interesting here. These marches could potentially go on the attack, but I don't think that they can just kill themselves off and then immediately go mid. That's the one issue here. If these 261K marches sad face like they're doing now, they cannot just go to mid. They have to come back out to this area. But if you are a backer of 261K, you like the fact that they're picking up this fight deep in the enemy's territory. Their building is safer at this moment than it has been in the past 30 plus minutes. So 261K is giving themselves a chance to win. Let's see how 466W is reacting, because they also know how important this 3rd arc is. What will 466W do in the meantime? In the last mid-fight, we saw a bit of indecision from 466W. They got to mid late, they let the enemy take the temple, and they let the enemy get a very clean pull. So will there be a similar amount of indecision by 466W on this 3rd arc, where they think to themselves, hey, what if we just focus on the sides? What if we just wreck the enemy's buildings and make this gap so big that even if the enemy scores the 3rd arc for 4,000 points, we still win? You can see that they're up about 2,600 points right now. So potentially they could just stay on the sides, dominate the sides, let the enemy take the 3rd arc. But that's pretty risky. That is pretty risky. Both teams have some very tough decisions to make with 10 minutes to go in this match. If you're blue team, do you full send to mid and let the enemy take your buildings? If you're the red team, do you full send to the sides and let the enemy get a free arc? And those decisions have to be also, you have to factor in what the enemy is doing. If you're the blue team and you decide to full send to mid, and the enemy just gives it to you, then they are going to do a ton of damage on the sides, and the gap is going to be big enough where 466W will win the match without winning a single mid fight. And if you're 466W and you sack the third mid, full focus the sides, but the enemy decides to defend the sides and only send a very small group to mid, then they have the ability to counter you. They can hold their buildings and grab the arc, and that could potentially give 261K the win. So these are very tough decisions that are happening in real time right now by both of these teams, and we will be able to track what decisions they make by watching the movement of the troops. The troops will tell the story of what their teams have decided to do. So what we see at this desert altar here is with 4 minutes to go, 261K is taking this building back. And now what is the red team doing? Are they going mid or are they going back to this building? They're going back to this building. Okay, so it looks like right now 466W is favoring a strategy on the sides. They're going to go light to the mid. They're going to try to keep flipping this desert altar. And look at this. This sentry allows 261K to see what is happening. They are seeing the movement of these players right now. Right? They can see this guy's not going mid. This Scipio's not going mid. This Scipio is walking to the north to this desert altar. So 261K knows that that's what's happening, and they are choosing to leave all these marches at this building rather than sending them mid. Now the issue is that 261K, as is their habit, as is their tendency, is trying to do a lot of things. They are trying to do a lot of things right now. They are trying to take buildings on the bottom side. This bottom side of the map, whew, this is, it looks good on paper. This looks good on paper for 261K because they're doing stuff on the bottom. But the issue is that these marches are not going mid, whereas the red team is rotating from the bottom side. The red team is giving up their buildings on the bottom side, and they are rotating to mid. And with 2.5 minutes to go before this arc, the red team does have the temple. Pretty good at I like this. I like what red team is doing here. They are attacking on the top side. They're trying to take this building on the top side, while their bottom side is dealing with the mid. And so it puts 261K in a very tough position where these marches want to go mid. They're the mid group. They're the group that's supposed to be mid, but they have to defend this desert altar. They cannot give up this desert altar. So 261K in a tough position here, trying to defend at this desert altar. Looks like they will get cleared out just as this rally is coming. And because of that, the top side cannot go to mid. 261K's top side cannot go mid. The bottom side, they can go mid after flipping these buildings. But I guess they're going to get there just in time. They're going to get there a little bit late, but they're going to get there just in time. Heavy rotation by both teams from the bottom side to this middle. The top side is battling it out on the sides. Tons of red marches in this outside lane. Tons of marches in this inside lane. The top side is fighting for buildings, and the bottom side is fighting for this third and final arc. What are the numbers like here? Boy, it looks... What do you think, chat? Who has the numbers advantage here in this mid fight? It looks pretty even to me. Looks like it's pretty close. I mean, both teams are just like full sending from the bottom side. So they presumably have the same amount of numbers. Sneaky tactics being cast by 261K here. Sneaky tactics by 261K. This is our first time seeing them use sneaky tactics in this match. What are they going to do with it? 30 seconds until the arc spawns. Red has taken the temple. Red has flipped the script from the first two arcs. 261K trying to use sneaky tactics to change things around here. They are going to get to the temple at least. They will get to the temple. Look at this. The rotation from the top side now. Late rotations from both teams from the top side. This building has been flipped by 466W. They're going to get the building. They got the building, and now they're rotating. Desert Stormcast to reveal the sneaky tactics. Fight at this arc as the arc is spawning. Holy smokes. The cyclone of the Desert Storm surrounding this big mid fight. Pretty clean grab by the red team, but it does get taken down. Blue team does take down this arc carrier. Who's going to pick it up next? And who is going to win this arc fight? 3.5 minutes to go, and a 2,500 point lead for 466W. They cannot let the enemy team return this arc. If 261K is able to return this arc, they could very easily win this match. Looks like a lot of sad faces from both teams here. Who is going to win this mid fight? Looks pretty even. A bit of a numbers advantage for Blue. Blue has a bit of a numbers advantage here. They grabbed the arc. The arc was taken down. They only have 3 minutes to return this arc. They need to return this arc in the next 3 minutes. And they probably need to get some of their buildings back here potentially, because they are now down 2,800 points. And that's just going to keep ticking away here. Gatherers starting to think about coming back in. Blue team has gotten this arc. Big pull from Sama. Blue team is clearing. They are clearing things at this temple. Master strategy from 261K. They've used very few skills mid, and they are now going to warp this mid back to their cities and get this quick capture. Oh my goodness. Big plays from 261K. And there is the group, the victorious group of this arc capture. They're going to return this arc immediately, and they are going to take the lead in this match. Really good use of master strategy there. Sama returning a third arc for 261K. Wow. What a great use of master strategy. They had it there on the bar. They cleared out the field. And they have won 3 out of 3 arcs in this match. They have, at this moment, gotten all their buildings back. They have a 1,700 point lead. And we feel like their gathering has been at least as good as 466W. Occupation score-wise, they are down 100 points a minute right now. 466W knows that they need to take a building here. 261K has put themselves in the driver's seat for this match. They won the third arc. They warped it back to their cities. And they are now looking very good to win this match with 1 minute left to go. The buildings will do a little bit. I mean, the buildings are worth a tiny bit right now, but it's really about these gatherers. It's about all these gatherers getting back in to their cities fast enough. Look at this, Sama, the art carrier, also gathering. MG coming back in. We're watching the gathering go up by both teams now. Both teams bringing home gatherers. 4,600 provisions by 466W. This is a 100-point game. This is a 100-point game right now. 100-point lead for 261K. Do they have more gatherers coming in? Oh my goodness. Have all the gatherers come in, or are there more coming in? Look at this. A Joan coming in. 466W takes the lead. They've got a Clio that's not going to get home in time, but that Joan might have done it. A 100-point lead for 466W. Oh my goodness. And it is 466W that wins the match with gatherers at the last minute. A 130-point win for 466W. They end up getting 6,500 points in provisions. They had some big gatherers who were out that whole match, and they surprised many of us by winning the gathering score by 2,200 points and pulling off a last-second win. That Joan getting into the city at the last second was the difference in the match. Wow. What a great match. 466W will advance to the third round of the lower bracket. 261K They are feeling it right now on their voice chat. Their Grand Prix is over. And they lost it in a tough fashion at the last second to a Joan of Arc gatherer. Well, that is life in the Grand Prix. We will be back very shortly for another match. And so, please stay tuned. And we will be back very shortly for Beer against 748W.
Stand up, don't drown in the dust. The land of the sand wants a prize on your hand. Hold tight, don't lose your way. Chasing for the glory to the end. Don't run, be the one. Bring all your dreams to the glorious kingdom. Are you hearing the voice of Seth call your name? Lost in the storm, hold your face and sword. Go fight a secret eye when this war will rise up higher. Reach for the sky, hold on to your weapons with pride. We rise up higher, conquer the ark, get ready to fight for your life. We rise up, climb on, choose the highest ground of the pyramid of life. Let the spirit get you high, 'cause we are the kings, we are the queens. We will rise up to the top. Stand up, don't draw in the dust. The land of the sun knows the answer in your head. Hold tight, it's worth the try. Chasing for the glory.
All right, we are back for game 2 of this Grand Prix Saturday. We have got another lower bracket match here between Beer and 748W, the champions of the recent Realm of Bastet Osiris League here on the international server. We have 2 international teams for this match. Beer was one of the teams that qualified for the Grand Prix through the qualifying system. They are a community team with players from many different kingdoms. I believe their leadership is largely a 60 GT leadership, but they also have players from many other kingdoms. And they actually played against 748 in the first round of the upper bracket. That was a pretty close match. 748 won by 5,000 points, largely because they dominated the occupation game and the gathering game. But Beer did manage to win 2 arcs against 748, and it was a relatively close match. I think that 748 is a pretty strong team in Ark of Osiris. I've seen some screenshots of them doing well in scrimmages during this Grand Prix. And they basically play very well, but then make some pretty questionable decisions along the way. They've made some pretty big blunders in some of their matches. And that is really the question mark with this team, is just, can they avoid the big blunders? Because everything else that 748 does is quite strong. They fight well in the field. They have basically, they have a good strategy. They handle a lot of the details of the game correctly, whether that's gathering or knowing how to attack effectively. But they just make these big blunders that either cost them an arc, causes them to lose an arc that they should win. We've seen them get ambushed multiple times. Or they just, misallocate where their marches should be, and that costs them the match from a scoring perspective. But if they can avoid the big mistakes, then 748 is a very strong international team that could potentially advance further into this tournament. On Beer's side, they've just been having a real good time throughout this thing. They made it through the qualifiers. They're the only community team to make it through the qualifiers. And then last week, they actually won a match against a Chinese server team. They beat S96S last week. And so they're actually one of the only international teams to beat a Chinese server team in this Grand Prix. And it may be the case that Beer gets some good confidence from that win, and they may just be having such good vibes at this point, and they may have gotten so much practice in that they're going to play more like a real team than a community team, and maybe they will surprise all of us and be an even tougher opponent for 748 this second time around. But what do you all think? Let's see how the chat has voted on this. How do I want to vote here? I'm going to vote the standard here, and I'm going to vote for 748W. Looks like 55% of you think that 748 is going to win this match, but 45% of you have faith in Beer. 45% of the chat are supporters of Beer in this matchup. As this match kicks off, we see a pretty even split by the blue team. Heavier on the inside lane, but quite respectable here on the outside lane as well. If you're red team, how is your distribution looking? It looks like red team is going very heavy on the outside. A lot of Beer marches here headed towards their own Sky Altar, but likely also thinking about taking the enemy's Shrine of Life right off the bat here. The sentries from 748 are tracking the movements on the bottom side. On the top side, 748 cannot really see what's happening here. In the inside lane here, they're almost searching for the enemy. They've pushed up so far in this inside lane. You can see the Beer has a very small group here on the inside lane. Again, the marches tell the tale. The marches indicate what the team is planning to do. Beer is just hiding on this inside lane because they want to freeze the enemy on the inside lane so that their outside lane can successfully attack the Shrine of Life. But 748 has mirrored this pretty well. Even though 748 cannot see what's happening, they have mirrored this pretty well. They have a decent amount of marches here on this outside lane. It does look like Beer has more people, though, so when this engage does eventually happen, Beer will likely get the win. A couple of marches here chilling at the altar. 748 trying to go in here. They're calling for the charge. And we have this engage here at the Sky Altar. Not a place you normally see a very big engage, but a big engage happening here as Beer is trying to take the enemy Shrine of Life early on in this match, and 748 is defending it pretty well. You can see that they've cleared everything here. The issue for Beer is that if 748 gets a really easy win in this inside lane, they can potentially come and swarm down this Shrine of War. If I have to make an analysis of this very early on, it almost looks like Beer's aggression might backfire here. Well, actually, 740 is not really going for this Shrine of Life. It looks like Yomi decided to rotate down here, but the rest of 748 players are just chilling back at the Desert Altar, or in this case with Mugi and FNK, and now Pepsi as well. They are actually going to rotate to the top side. If we then look at the bottom lane, we can see that both teams have taken their own buildings, and no real pressure on buildings here on the bottom side. 6.5 minutes before the first arc, both teams have their own buildings and are trying to lock in the first capture bonus on it. Maybe the only question mark is maybe this Desert Altar. We can see that this thing has a long time to go before first occupation. We can see that 748 is going to re-attack this Desert Altar before the first arc. Beer getting back their Desert Altar, but they are not aware of what is headed for them. A very big 748 attack is headed to this Desert Altar. Bunny gets there first. Bunny's going to wait for their teammates before going in on this. They have plenty of time, actually. 748 has plenty of time on this building. And Beer really needs to think about what kind of defense they want to do. It looks like Beer has sort of two agendas here. They want to attack this Sky Altar, and the attack on the Sky Altar looks fairly promising here for Beer. And at the same time, though, Beer needs to allocate marches to this inside lane to try to hold this Desert Altar and get the first capture. If you evaluate things from a priority perspective, this Desert Altar is the more important building. The first capture is still up for grabs on this building. The most you can do on the outside lane, well, they might be able to stop the first capture here as well, actually. So we've got a couple things happening on this bottom side. They're going to try to flip this Sky Altar before it first captures. They've got 30 seconds to do it. You can see some of the marches are not swarming the building. Some of the marches are taking on these marches in the field. They really need everyone to swarm this building to try to get this thing down in 20 seconds. Doesn't really look like it's going to happen. Well, I mean, it's close. Now they've got the full swarm on this thing. Eleanor going down to red. 7 seconds to go. 5 seconds. Oh my goodness. Are they going to flip this thing? They do flip it. Beer does flip the Sky Altar. First capture still up for grabs on that building. Over here at the Desert Altar, Beer needs to hold it for another minute, and that is just not going to happen. There's no way that they're going to hold this for another minute. The rally from 748 is coming in. They are also going to flip this building before the first capture. So a lot of action here on the bottom side. On the top side, both teams have locked in all of their buildings. And you can see that Beer is doing a heavy, somewhat early rotation to mid. The rotation to mid from 748 is coming a little bit later, but it should be there on time. And then here on the bottom side, boy, Beer is in a tough spot. Beer's in a very tough spot here. They have marches at the Sky Altar. They are being successful at the Sky Altar, but these marches cannot help mid. nor can they help at this Desert Altar. 748 posturing forward at this Desert Altar, making it difficult for Beer Marches to rotate mid, and also making it difficult for Beer Marches to get to this building. Beer does have plenty of time here. You can now see that the push from Beer is coming out. It almost feels like none of these players are going to be mid. If you're 748, you like the timing here. You are getting your marches killed now, and then you can go to mid late. Pretty good timing for 748. But at the same time, yeah, and look, a late rotation from Beer from the top side as well. Beer has a lot of marches over here, trying to take back their Sky Altar on the top side. Looks like the first mid fight for Beer is going to be heavily compromised based on the side play. You almost wonder at this point if you're Beer, if you just sack the mid. If maybe these marches here from Too Nasty and Amira, maybe they just go and start heading to this building instead. But they're going to try to do the mid. I mean, they're not outnumbered right now. They're not outnumbered right now, but the problem is that there's more marches coming from 748. The numbers aren't too bad mid. They're not too bad mid. Big fight still here at the Desert Altar. 748 trying to get the first capture. They need to hold this for one more minute, and they will get the important first capture on this building. They're going for it. There's no rally on this building right now. Beer is trying to swarm down this building rather than clear the field. Very notable here. Beer is trying to hold the building, or swarm the building down rather than clear the field. There is a rally on it. Nightmare's Scipio Pakal rally is hitting this Harrow YSS garrison. Beer does get the flip. They do flip this Desert Altar back. First capture still up for grabs on this Desert Altar. And the mid-fight is just about to kick off here. Both teams right at the temple. They are very, very close to each other. Both teams very, very close to each other, choosing not to engage. Both teams wanting to get more marches. If you're Beer and you look at this map, you realize we don't have any more marches coming. This is all we have. We might as well go in now. It's actually 748 that starts this thing. 748 liking the numbers, liking what they see here. Heaven's Grace. Heaven's Grace from 748 immediately countered by Bogdown from Beer. That's going to reduce the healing effectiveness of the Heaven's Grace by 50%, I believe. So a good counter by Beer to cast Bogdown right after Heaven's Grace. Both teams using Dust Up plus one other skill. The Arc is spawning. Aatrox from Beer grabs it. Really good pull here. Good pull by Beer. Looks like Beer is doing really well on the Sad Face train. Oh, Beer just cleaned that one up. Beer completely cleaned that one up. The debuff and the healing reduction from Bogdown making the difference there. Really clean Arc win for Beer. And that is big. That is huge because Beer was struggling to hold their buildings, but they managed to hold their buildings. They won the mid, even while all these marches here were not at mid. These marches had a very important job to do, which was to flip back this Desert Altar and eventually get a first capture on it. So the fact that they were able to grab the Arc and hold their buildings is really, really good for Beer. Very, very good. If we quickly look at the total kills, we can see that they are dead even. These teams are pretty even on the fighting front so far in this match. Beer outskilling their opponents with the mid fight. We've seen Beer be very effective in the mid. And actually in Beer's last match against 396S, so Beer actually won 4 arcs in their last match. They won the arc. They won the arcs by 15,000 points last week. So I think we're seeing from Beer that they are very good at the mid. right? Mid is a lot about individual player skill. It's about targeting the correct marches and switching to other marches at the right time. And Beer is proving to be a very good mid team. Here's Bazban's Huo. I believe Bazban is one of the leaders of this team. And so at this point in the match, 748 does have the lead because of their occupation work. They've got about a 2,000 point lead. They hold the Beard Shrine of War. And so one of the questions here is, can 748 be so effective on the sides that they will be able to neutralize some of the arc captures that Beer does? And I think that remains to be seen because the two teams are pretty even fighting-wise. And so 748 is going to have to be very well coordinated to garner a big advantage on the sides. They did win the occupation score by 10,000 points the first time these two teams played. So it is possible that 748 is going to just be very dominant on the sides. And at this moment, they have taken two of Beer's buildings. They've taken the Shrine of Life on the top side, and they have taken the Desert Altar here on the bottom side. So Beer has to get their act together on the sides. They've been very good mid, but they just have to be more coordinated on the sides, or it's going to be a very tough road ahead. Chat noting that Sneaky Tactics was cast by 748. One of the things that you can do, and the arc was insta-returned. The arc was instantly returned by Beer. So they're just going for heavy, heavy arc play in this game. What you can do is you can cast Sneaky Tactics. You can make the enemy team nervous that they're going for an arc ambush, and that sort of freezes the enemy team and allows you to more easily take their buildings. Looks like that's what 748 did there, and we have seen that a few times in this Grand Prix, and it is a pretty good play. I will admit that I have lost track of the first capture on this Desert Altar. Not sure if either team has managed to get the first capture. We can see that even though Beer has returned this arc, they're only up about 600 points. And that is a sign that the occupation score early on is in fact being dominated by 748. They're already up 2,600 points in occupation score. So Beer pushing back to this building. Scipio Rally hitting as their open field approaches. Looks like they're somewhat clearing the field before swarming. This rally was not full when it launched, and it's already down to about half health. The Hera holding up pretty well here. 20 seconds before 748 locks in a capture here. We'll see if it's a first occupation capture or not. If their score shoots up by 750 points, it's going to be a first capture. And Beer cannot really afford this. They cannot afford to fail on their take-back attempts. Yep, it looks like that was the first capture that 748 just locked in. They got a really nice points boost there. They're now up. Wow, they are now up 3,700 points. Or 3,500 points in occupation score. So first capture on this Desert Altar finally gets locked in. We are more than 20 minutes into this match, and it was just now first captured. This building has been flipping back and forth the whole time. We're probably going to see Beer flip it again here, and then they will have to get to mid very, very quickly. So a lot of action at this bottom side Desert Altar. The top side looking a little more stable. We have not seen either team flip many buildings on the top side. And that bodes well for Beer. If they can hold the top side, then at least they're halfway to their goal. Look at this obelisk. Obelisk flipped by Beer. Finn the Human getting in there. no Garrison Captain. And this gives us a good chance to scan out and look at the gathering situation. No gatherers for 748, and a modest 3 or 4 gatherers from Beer. Let's look at who it is. It's Finn the Human. This was the Beer gatherer in the past as well. Finn the Human again. So it looks like Beer has a full-time gatherer in Finn the Human. We saw how important those full-time gatherers were in the last match, where 466W straight up won the match through gathering. And so, pretty interesting that 748 does not have any gatherers. Beer does have some gatherers. And so what I would say is that if Beer can play good enough defense on this bottom side, where they do not get crushed on occupation score, and they are able to send marches to mid, then I think Beer is in pretty good shape. We can see Riley here is deciding to just go mid rather than fight at this building, right? He's assessed a couple of things. One, he has assessed that his team will be able to flip this building without him. And two, he has assessed that if he does not go to mid now, he might not be able to get to mid later. Because in the last mid fight, this bottom side was blocked from even getting to mid. So Riley's just going to scoot on through early and make sure that he's at mid. In this case, we're not seeing a lot of pressure from 748. We're seeing marches redirect. We're seeing Odo here redirect from an attack on the Desert Altar and is just going to go to mid early. We can see the intention now of 748 is that they are going to heavy send to mid. There's not a lot happening on the sides for 748. A lot of sad faces from the Sky Altar. These marches will get home in time. Good timing here for Jason and Mugi. They will get to mid on time. Heavy rotation for 748 towards the second mid fight. And now also a heavy rotation from Beer. Both teams doing the old school thing of just heavy sending mid. No late attacks on the sides. Both teams just heavy sending mid. If you're Beer, you want to have as many arcs in this match as possible. And if you're 748, you want to just grab one of these arcs and then hold it for 20 or so minutes and make this an occupation game. So both teams have plenty of good reasons to win this second mid fight. And we're just going to have to see what happens. When these teams fought in the first match, Beer did win 2 out of 3 mids, but, you know, 748 does do well with these mid fights. It's not like it's a blowout. Although the last one was a blowout. The first mid fight here was a blowout win for Beer. We'll see if things go differently this time. Beer did get the pull last time. And it was a good pull, but it was a contested pull. Both teams had a carrier, and it was literally like a 1 second difference where Beer grabbed it slightly faster. I think we might see double to the death here. I think we might see both teams cast to the death. I don't think... Listen, one thing to note is that 748, Viet Minh, the leader of 748, he did cast Sneaky Tactics shortly before the arc was returned. So it is very likely that 748 does not have a full skill bar, because they used those 3 points only about 10 minutes ago, or actually about 7 minutes ago they used those points. So Beer probably has more points than 748, and so they could potentially cast to the death plus Sneaky Tactics or to the death plus Total Vision, and that will likely give them an advantage against to the death plus Dust Up from 748, if 748 even has 8 points at this stage. But the arc is going to spawn in 20 seconds. Both teams once again getting to the temple. They're going to do a late engage. They're going to get very close to each other before engaging. Beer's trying to get there in time. Their stragglers they're waiting for their stragglers, but they cannot wait any longer. They have to go in. This arc is going to spawn in 5 seconds. A Gonzalo here at the temple. Heaven's Grace from Beer. Heaven's Grace plus 2 to the death from Beer. No skills from 748 so far. Only Dust Up. 748 has only cast Dust Up. It is Dust Up against 2 the Death plus Heaven's Grace. 748 has not casted any skills. They have not casted any skills here other than Dust Up. Beer gets the pull. A pretty clean pull here by Vladzor. It's going to go down, but 748 cannot possibly win the mid using only 2 skill points. Oh my goodness. 10 skill points for Beer. 2 skill points for 748. They did a heavy send to mid and then didn't cast any skills. That is a huge blunder by 748. We talked about it when the match started, that 748 has to avoid the big mistakes, but they have just made a very big mistake here. You cannot send everyone to mid and then only cast Dust Up. That is a straight up disaster. They probably saw the full skill cast by Beer and decided, well, we just can't possibly win this mid. I mean, okay, that's a rational decision in the moment, but you have to be prepared for that and allocate your marches accordingly. A big blunder for 748. Beer takes the second arc. They are now down 2,500 points because of occupation issues. But once they return this arc, they will have a 1,000 point lead. And as a reminder, Beer does have full-time gatherers, and 748 does not. 748 is not gathering at all. Oh, Master Strategy now. This is what they had planned. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know about this one, boys. I mean, a Master Strategy ambush on this arc. Let's see how many marches they bring, but I mean, it's just not... It's just, this can't work. There's no way this is going to work. There's no way this is going to work. Oh my goodness. I mean, they did mobilize a lot of marches. A lot of blue marches here with this ambush. You can see, well, I mean, look at the numbers though. The numbers are like pretty even. As much as 748 brought a lot of marches, they used 6 points here to, and it's going to be tough. This ambush is going to be tough. They are rotating very hard though. Very big mobilization. So they warped from the top side and rotated from the bottom side. And so pretty much the entire 748 team is at this arc. It's a high-risk play for 748. It could work. You can almost picture what happened here. They used Dust Up, and then they didn't have enough points for 2 the Death. And then when they finally did get 6 points, they decided to Master Strategy onto this arc. They're going for the ambush. They do have the... They are dominating this thing. It might be a high-risk play that pays off for 748. They're throwing the thumbs up emoji. They're calling it. 748 is calling this arc. And I guess they have good reason to. 748 stealing the arc with a Master Strategy ambush. Well played by 748. Wow. The escort, it was a huge escort. Huge escort by Beer, which made me think that this ambush would not work. But what they did was they warped from the top side and ambushed from the bottom side. And so their entire team is here, and they are bringing this arc back to the 748 side. That's a huge turn of events. Huge turn of events for 748. Because they could potentially just hold this arc now for, 15 minutes, make this at most a 3 arc game, and they could just rock them on the buildings in the meantime. So 748 does have a 2,500 point lead. If we give them this arc, they will have a 6,000 point lead. And that is a lot of points for Beer to make up from gathering. Although potentially Beer could gather plus win the third arc. So this match is not over. And look at this. Beer trying to re-ambush. Beer trying to re-ambush this arc, but they just don't have the numbers. It doesn't feel like they have the numbers to re-ambush this arc. But they're also ambushing from the bottom side here. This is not over. Beer is still going for this arc. What do the numbers look like at this moment mid? It looks like a little bit of an advantage for Beer. It looks like, if anything, Beer has a few more marches here, if you count these marches back here. At the actual site of the arc, 748 has the advantage. Both teams trying to grab it. Looks like Yomi grabs the arc with a full double C. This is going to be a big pull. This is going to be a very big pull for Yomi here. Yeah, this is the issue with the Beer ambush. Their marches are just not going to get there. Like, it's good that they have these marches in the middle, but the marches are not touching the arc carrier. And so this arc is going to get pulled a very, very long way by Yomi. You can see Vladzor just like a bat out of hell heading to this arc carrier. Pretty good run by Vladzor here to get to this arc. Can they bring it down? Now Vladzor got the kill, but the arc is just gradually getting pulled to the 748 side. Some Beer march is heading here, but not enough. Not enough Beer march is headed towards this arc. Beer actually grabs it, but immediately gets killed. Yeah, just not enough Beer marches. They just they're not fully committed to this. You know, they're energetic now being cast by Beer. Beer's probably giving up on this arc at this point. I don't think they can realistically get this thing. The issue is that as they're trying to ambush this arc, they're also losing their buildings on this bottom side again. The bottom side for Beer has been an issue in this match, and they have lost both of their buildings at this point. 748 grabbing both buildings on the bottom side, Shrine of Life being captained by a Huo, and the Desert Altar being captained by a much more legitimate Hera, although it is going down. Kevin in the chat saying Beer should never have let that happen. Then once it was done, they gave them even more by chasing them across the map instead of taking buildings. Kevin, I agree with you on the second part of that. The Beer ambush was not a good play, but it is hard for me to blame Beer for what happened there. Their escort was quite big. You know, maybe they could have reacted a little bit faster. But I mean, their escort was very big on that arc. I think it could have been just bad luck that the marches that survived were from the bottom side. And so you had marches from the bottom side in that escort, and therefore fewer marches were able to refresh and go back to that ambush location. I don't know. To me, that beer escort was quite big, and it was just an overwhelming attack and an overwhelming ambush by 748. Well executed. I can't really blame Beer too much for letting that happen. I think it was just an outplay by 748. So, Beer can potentially hold this arc for 13 minutes. The fact that that arc got flipped so many times, the fact that Beer ambushed that arc is a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal that Beer tried to unsuccessfully ambush that arc, because every time that arc got dropped, that reset the timer. And so now 748 can hold this arc for 12 minutes. And so if they then return the arc at the 12-minute mark, it will take 8 minutes for the arc to respawn, and Beer will only have about 4 minutes to capture and return the last arc. So Beer has really given themselves less time to capture a third arc because of that ambush. And as of now, Beer does have all their buildings back. They're playing a bit of offense, but Beer has really not been able to take any of 748's buildings. And on the bottom side, 748 has had a lot of very good attacks. For Beer, what they need to do is they need to hold their buildings for the next 15 minutes, and they need to get the third arc. And they need to continue out gathering 748. Let's see if 748 is starting to pull gatherers out. We are now seeing gatherers for 748. The pressure is a bit off 748. They know that they can just hold the arc. They know that if they flip Beer buildings, then it's simply a bonus. And so they are now sending some gatherers out to try to get some provisioning points. And if you're Beer, you have to keep all your gatherers out. I don't know that you need to pull more gatherers out if you're Beer, but it's a pretty simple 3-step process. Don't lose your buildings, keep gathering, and capture the third arc. Maybe that's enough, but honestly, probably not. I mean, they're already down 4,500 points. And once that arc gets returned, Beer is down 8,000 points. It's somewhat hard to imagine them making up 4,000 points in gathering, but it is not impossible. The problem is, it looks like Beer is just going to keep losing some of these buildings. This Desert Altar is going to get flipped again on the bottom side. We also see Beer losing a building on the top side. They've lost their altar on the top side as well. A bit of a low point for Beer here. You can see that their morale is a little bit low, I think, at this moment. And 748 is stepping down on the gas right now. They have the arc. They've brought some gatherers out. They're holding buildings and they're casting dust up. They're using dust up on the sides, signaling that they are going to hold this arc for the full 10 minutes. If you're Beer, you probably want to use dust up as well. You need that fighting boost. You need to hold your buildings, and you just cannot let 748 have a global fighting boost with dust up and not use it yourself. I do think Beer needs to cast dust up here. Big fight at this Sky Altar. This building has been flipping back and forth over the last couple of minutes. Leo in the chat saying that 2748 needs to have 10 gatherers or else Beer has a chance. I mean, what we have seen from Beer in this match is we have seen that Finn the Human has had 3, maybe 4 marches out gathering the whole match. Now, I cannot give one full-time gatherer 4,000 points. I can give them 3,500 points, but I cannot give them 4,000 points. So, unless Beer is really upping the gathering, which they are, Beer is upping the gathering at this point. Beer is heavily out-gathering 748, even at this moment. But listen, 748 is countering that. 748 is full countering the heavy gathering by flipping all of these buildings. I mean, they are just flipping all these buildings over and over again. They've held this Desert Altar for a while now. So this is one way to counter gatherers, like heavy gatherers, is you just take all of their altars. I mean, 748 is just taking all of Beer's altars over and over again, and they're holding them. They're holding the altars. And listen, gathering is very powerful in this game. No doubt, gathering is powerful in the Grand Prix, but it can be countered by a team that just takes the enemy's altars over and over again. You cannot gather enough to make up for the point differential generated by constantly losing your altars. It's a huge swing every minute. If you hold the enemy altar, then you're getting 150 points per minute. The enemy is not getting those 150 points per minute. So that is 300 points per minute per altar that 748 is doing. And you cannot gather 300 points a minute. Gathering is powerful, but you cannot gather 300 points a minute. If we just base it on the score that 466W did in the last match, where they had 6,500 points at the end of the match, they were gathering something like... Oh gosh, why am I bad at this math? They were gathering just over 100 points per minute, right? They were gathering basically 100 points per minute in the last match. And that's the high end. That is the high end of gathering in this game. If you have tons of gatherers, you can get about 100 points per minute. But that's less than one altar. That is less than one altar. So if you can hold one enemy altar the whole game, then you will outscore a massive gathering effort. If you're in the chat, be sure to turn to the chat. There are 2 gift codes being dropped just now in the chat. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure to throw a like on this stream, subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdoms channel, and grab those gift codes, put them in, get a bit of a reward for tuning in to the Grand Prix. And thank you all for hanging out with me today to watch these very good Ark of Osiris matches. We've had a couple of very good matches, no doubt about it. The first match was very close, and I would say that this match was going to be close, but then 748 with the very nice ambush of the second Beer Ark. That has really thrown a spanner in the works for Beer. They had a strategy to go heavy mid to win all the mids, and in a split second, that plan was ruined by 748 and their master strategy ambush of the Ark. When this Ark gets returned, there's going to be about 3.5 minutes for Beer to capture and return a third Ark. It remains to be seen if they'll be able to do that. 748 is now winning in total kills. They've opened up a 10% positive ratio in fighting. And Beer is somewhat on the back foot. Again, on this top side, they're doing okay. Beer has held their buildings pretty well on the top side. The issue is really the bottom side of this map and this desert altar that just frequently gets flipped by 748. They've got another attack on it now. PPK with the Scipio Tariq rally, a solid damage rally against this cavalry garrison. And 748 has now cleared the field. They're swarming the buildings with some of their fresh marches, and their mid-health marches are now picking up the opposition in the midfield, trying to prevent reinforcements from getting to this building. Let's see if this Double C can get there in time. Nope. Double C does not get there in time. Building gets flipped again for 748. You can see that Beer was able to get 4 reinforcements into this building, but a very good trade for the PPK rally when you combine it with the swarming. Eleanor does well in Ark of Osiris, but she's not so dominant that a good attack isn't going to work every single freaking time. Solo rally by Beer here is not going to work. This is where Eleanor shines. Eleanor shines when it's just against a rally. He is a great 1-versus-1 commander. You have to get a swarm on the Eleanor, or else she is going to beat just about every rally. She does well against the infantry rallies. She does really well against the archer rallies. So, this is probably the best counter for Eleanor. The best counter against Eleanor is a lot of normal damage. Scipio does do a lot of normal damage. But Beer is just looking for answers right now, trying to get back this desert altar. The counter is coming out, but you can see that they're just not filling these rallies. We've seen a lot of these Scipio rallies from Beer And they really are just not, they're rarely full. They are rarely full. So, and look, now they're swarming before the rally even gets there. A lot of these marches will now have to refresh rather than fight in the field. The rally finally gets there. They will flip this building. But look, 748 is just resending. They're just quickly resending. Let's see if 748 decides to ball up or whether they just like go straight in. We are seeing a lot of teams ball up. We saw 466S or 466W do it effectively in the last match. But I do like the constant pressure. I like the constant pressure strategies. And I'm surprised that more teams aren't doing it. It does look like 748 is just going to ball up. Sort of ball up, but this player is going in. This player wants to do constant pressure. The rest of them are just going to ball up in an organized fashion. Absolutely massive number of gatherers for beer at this point. Look, they're even looking, they're just camping. They're camping resource locations. A full Siondiok just wandering around looking for a spot. If anything, I would say that beer is maybe over allocated to gatherers at this point. I mean, they're just not holding their buildings. They're not holding their buildings often enough to justify this many gatherers. The only way this gathering strategy works is if you hold your buildings, but they are consistently losing their buildings. And so in that sense, I would say that beer has over-allocated to the gathering game. But maybe they're just going for the all-time record of gathering points. Beer trying to flip back their own Sky Altar. And Eleanor, a full Eleanor garrison here. You can see that not only did 748 take this building, but they took it with force, where they were able to get a garrison in this building, and they were able to fill it up quite fully. And now this Eleanor is actually generating points. The rally is going to get here, you know, as this thing's going down, so pretty like ineffective rally. The rally can't even hit the building. The rally's looking for space to hit the building. Also not a full rally. We're starting to sort of see the community nature of beer here, where they're just not as crisp on the sides as a lot of these top Grand Prix teams. So at this moment, beer has flipped their main buildings back. However, they've lost all three of their outposts. All three beer outposts are now in the hands of 748. Once these things are locked in, they will be generating 90 points a minute for the blue team. That is 90 points that the blue team should not be getting, and 90 points, a missing 90 points that beer should be getting. That's a 180 points per minute swing. And once again, that is countering all these gatherers. We did theorycraft that the beer gatherers can only get about 100 points per minute. And that's just fully countered by losing all three of their outposts. And at this moment, we can see that really no beer marches are even going for these buildings. I mean, there's one player here, Finn the Human. Boy, Finn the Human has a lot of roles in this match. Finn the Human is tasked with gathering. They're tasked with raiding the enemy gatherers. And Finn the Human is being tasked with taking back all of the outposts. It's kind of a good use of one player, actually, to have them paying attention to all these things, while the rest of the team focuses on things like the third mid. Looks like 748 might have returned that arc a little bit early, actually, because the next arc is actually in 3 minutes. I missed that return. I missed the return by 748. I think they're feeling very comfortable at this point. They have an 11,000 point lead in this match. So even if beer returns this next arc, they're still going to be down a huge number of points. And I'm sorry, but there's just no way that Beer is going to make all those points up in gathering. So 748, feeling comfortable. They returned the arc earlier than they needed to. I guess they liked the timing of things. And now they're going to full send to mid. A full send mid by 748. And Beer is not really... It's taking Beer a moment to realize that this full send is occurring. We can see that there are no sentry wards for Beer mid. 748 is able to see a lot of the rotation by the red team, but Beer probably has not realized. Look, Finn the Human, also the scout. Finn the Human doing a lot of stuff in this match. I do like the work that Finn the Human has put in this Grand Prix. So Beer might have a sense that this is a very, very heavy mid push by their opponents. They see that the enemy is confident enough to take the altar or take the temple right away. And Beer, yeah, Beer just has a lot of people who aren't going to get to mid in time. Looks like the numbers advantage is in 748's favor here. And this will be interesting to see. We have seen Beer win both mid fights. Even if Beer doesn't win this match, I mean, if you can just straight up win 3 out of 3 mid fights against the Realm of Bastet champions, that is a pretty good flex. I mean, that's honestly a good flex. It just shows sort of the potential that this team has. I mean, if you can be a super strong mid-fighting team, then you can do a lot of stuff in Arc. It opens up the whole game. It allows you to do a lot of different strategies. And, you know, Beer's going to try to win 3 out of 3 mids here. 748 doesn't want to let it happen. 748 is thinking about getting much deeper into this tournament. They'd love to make it into the top 8. They'd love to get those better prizes for being in the top 8. A couple hundred more dollars in flux scripts, I believe, if you can finish in the top 8. So 748 is going to get some good practice here with this mid fight. Kicking off a little bit early. Beer going in early. A lot of their players are not there yet. A lot of their players are not there. Bog Down plus Heaven's Grace for Beer. To the death cast by 748. Also sneaky tactics for 748. 748 did do some nice skills there. They actually got 11 points of skills off here by 748. Beer using, I believe, 10 points of skills. And another action-packed mid-fight here. Beer grabs the arc. Vladzor grabs the arc in traffic. Vladzor gets the pull 1 second before 748. Looks like 748 is winning this fight based on the movement of these marches. Looks like 748 winning this third mid-fight straight up, getting 11 points of skills off and clearing the field, clearing the Beer field, and convincingly winning the third arc. Well played again here by 748. We've seen them fly close to the sun in this match in a couple of ways, but it has worked. They cast Dust Up before the fight started, then they refreshed their skills fast enough to actually use Dust Up, To the Death, and Sneaky Tactics on that third mid-fight. Pretty cool play there by 748 to get 11 points of skills. So yeah, you know, good stuff from 748. I mean, if we take a step back on this team a little bit, they came relatively close to beating 93T in the International Server Grand Prix. They have now beaten Beer twice. In their match last week, they lost a very close match against GY16. I didn't mention this earlier in the match, and I probably should have. Last week, 748 in the upper bracket, they only lost by 3,000 points against GY16, who is considered the best Chinese team. At worst, GY16 is considered a top 2 Chinese team. So 748 had a very good performance last week against GY16. They played very well against 93T in the Grand Prix. And I believe they have also been doing pretty well in scrims. I saw one scrim that they played about a week or two ago, and they also had a very close game against the top team in that scrimmage. So, 748 is, they're a team that can go farther in this Osiris League. If they avoid the big mistakes, they can certainly go further in this Osiris League. But we saw the potential for that big mistake, I think, in a few situations in this match. Number one, they let Beer get some really good pulls on the arc. And number two, they may or may not have had enough skill points on the second arc fight. We saw them only use 2 skills mid. They did turn it around by using Master Strategy, and maybe that was their plan the whole time. But, I mean, you're not going to beat a top Chinese team using 2 skill points mid. I guess unless you do an equally good ambush again. I think that ambush would have worked against better teams than Beer. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how 748 does going forward in this Grand Prix. And it will also be interesting to see how many gathering points Beer gets. You can see they still have a lot of gatherers out. I believe they did return some of their gatherers early on. Yeah, they've got about 3,000 provision points already because some of their gatherers came home to fight mid. What we've talked about, how do you counter gathering? I talked about how a strong building game is one way to counter it. The other thing that I think teams need to do more of is what Mr. Korea is doing here, which is harass the gatherers. Harass the gatherers. I mean, he's very low health now, so he can't do a whole lot, but I just think you have to make life difficult for these gatherers. And, force them to constantly sad face, go back to their city, and then pull their marches back out. Potentially, you could keep your raider at the resource tile and attack them again. Last week when 93T played against 466S, we saw 466S do very heavy gathering. They got about 7,000 points of provisions. And what we did not see was 93T having a player that was heavily devoted to harassing the enemy gatherers. I do think that's something we should probably see teams doing. Allocate one march to harassing the gatherers and making life more difficult for those players. We have seen how powerful gathering is thus far in the Osiris League. But I think what we will see going forward is we will see stronger and stronger counters to the gathering meta. We're going to continue to see heavy gathering, but teams are going to be theory crafting and they're going to be practicing ways to counter the gathering meta. And I think we're going to see that become more effective as this Grand Prix advances to the later stages. In tomorrow's matches, for example, we will see upper bracket play. We will see the semifinals of the upper bracket. 4 Chinese teams remain in the upper bracket. So we will see one heavy gathering Chinese team play against another heavy gathering Chinese team. And I think the question will be, do they keep the script the same, or do they kind of adjust and try to counter one another? But that is for tomorrow. Today's match is wrapping up here. 748 getting a solid win here. Let's see what the Beer Occupations gathering score is. They're up to 6k gatherers at this point. They might get another 1 or 2 to trickle in at the last second, but a very solid win here for 748. They pick up the victory. They advance further in this tournament. Beer ends up with 6,000 gathering points. That's about 100 points a minute from gathering. That just does not make up for the absolute dominance of 748 in the occupation score, almost doubling the occupation score of Beer. They also won 2 out of 3 arcs with that steal the second time around. Ultimately, a very good win for 748. A close match early, a dominant margin in the end for this team from Vietnam. They will advance further, and this is the end of the road for Beer, the final community team from the international server. A really good run for Beer. Shout out to them for a lot of fun matches. And I do thank you all for tuning in. Throw a like on the stream on your way out. And we do have another Grand Prix match happening on the other official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Plato and Dirty Dan will be bringing you that action. So be sure to tune in for that match. And I will see you all on the flip side.